Yeah, we're on page 660. I think it's next week, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're on page 660, chapter 4 of the Pirkei Avot. Vanessa's joining us today, that's nice. Oh, really? Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the end. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Okay, so let's check. How many
I'm not
Mishnahs?
going to be here anymore. I don't want to be here, man.
Yeah.
That happens.
Oh my word, there's 29 Mishnahs, guys.
It's a long one.
It's every year, it just gets longer and longer. I keep hoping it gets shorter. Okay, we're going to go super speed today because there's 29 Mishnahs.
This is not an auction sale. We're not auctioning
And
them.
sold! Alright, page 660. All of Israel have a share in the world to come. As it is said, your people are all righteous. They shall inherit the land forever. The work of my own hands, that I may be glorified. Amen. Okay, chapter 4, verse 1. Ben Zoma. There's something about him. He's famous for something. There was a story I read about him last week. I think he was the guy with the snake, wasn't he? Anyway, okay. Ben Zoma said, who is wise? Who's the wise guy? This is a very good Mishnah. I love this one. One who learns from everyone. You know, generally, especially in the Torah world, right? There's this weird thing that we think that the more knowledge you have about the Torah, the more midrashim you learn and listen to and stuff, the cleverer you get. That's nonsense. You learn more from human beings' interactions, from being a mensch, than you do from studying a book and people's opinions about the Bible. It's a very big problem, actually. Eh? Sometimes we get so puffed up when we learn stuff. We think we're wise, but you're actually just being a spouse that says, "Look at your ugly hunchback." All right. So who is wise? One who learns from everyone, as it says. From all my teachers I have learned, for your testimonies are my meditation. Who is strong? Is it Driekus du Plessis? One who masters his evil impulse, as it is said. He who is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he who rules over his spirit is better than he who conquers a city. That's the biggest wrestling match you'll ever have, is your evil inclination. And the whole story of that, of course, is where old Jacob wrestled with the angel. And they say it was the angel of your Torah portion there. Sandy's been wrestling her whole life. Now she's been put in the ankle lock. Rock bottom, all these wrestling moves have hit her, which is why her bones are all over the place. Sandy, all your operations, if you were a Cohen, only 30 operations. Yeah, if you were a Cohen, they wouldn't let you in.
So maybe,
You won't get past the beepers.
but maybe it's like the leper. If you had all the operations ever, all the broken bones, then you're clean again.
Yeah, there you go, maybe. There you go, a leopard can't change its spots. Pretty dark, yeah, that is pretty dark actually. Okay, so this is brilliant, right? This is the one who's truly strong, one who can conquer their evil inclination. So we don't measure it by your muscles, we measure it by your resilience. All right, who is rich? Not me. One who rejoices in what he has. Me. As it is said, when you eat from the labor of your hands, you will be happy and all will be well with you. You will be happy in this world and all will be well with you in the world to come. People that have too much money have got more. What's it? The famous Rabbi Snoop Dogg said, "More money, more problems." Yeah. So the one who's truly happy and rich is one who's happy with what he has. Then you lack nothing. Right? If you've got a lot of money and you want more, then you're lacking stuff. You're stressing. You want to make more. You have to make more to pay off the debtors. All this stuff. That's not where the true riches lay. This Mishnah is fantastic, by the way. Who is honored? Okay, who's an honorable person in your eyes? Some guy with a deep British accent, maybe? Yes. No? One who honors others. As it is said, those who honor me, I will honor, but those who scorn me will be despised. Beautiful Mishnah from Ben Zoma. Alright, so here's the commentary. Who is wise, who is strong, who is rich, and who is honored? This Mishnah's wisdom is stunning in its simplicity. You want wisdom? Go learn from everybody. Why? Because the Torah's version of wisdom requires interaction with folks, both smart and not so smart. If you want strength, forget about flexing your muscles. Why? Because the Torah's idea of strength comes from the spirit, your willpower, your restraint, controlling your desires. Want to be rich? And by the way, that means you have to exercise it as well, hey?
Self-control.
Yeah, you have to exercise it, and every day you have to get up and work and fight that gym. Slaughter that evil inclination. The evil inclination is seen as an animal in Judaism, meaning that every day you have to wake up and slaughter it. So you have to wrestle with the thing and then slaughter it. You want to be rich? Subscribe to my channel. Donate now. Plant your seed. Sow your seed.
So you see, my
In my jet fund.
Like a teacher that I follow said, and this and this and this, and don't think I'm going to send you a Peter and Paul salt and pepper pot.
What's that story about Lot? You know Lot?
Yeah.
He was having a meal with his children and the food was a bit dry, so he said, pass the mom.
Yeah.
Instead of pass the salt. Because she looked back and turned into salt. Okay. It's okay, don't worry. His delayed laughs are good as well. Okay, you want to be rich? Money and wealth are a means to an end, and that end is inner contentment, inner peace. Not money, please, inner peace. To be happy with what you have. True riches, writes the 13th century Italian Jewish poet scribe Yechiel Anav, is contentment. Ashrei. Ben Sirach exhorted, saying, with little or with much, be content. An echo of Ben Zoma's definition of who is rich. Seeking honor, then you shall honor others. Why? Because they are created in God's image. But how? By treating them with respect and generosity, qualities which will then be offered to you in return. In his definition of the wise, the strong, the rich, and the honored, Rabbi Shimon tries to focus on the person on the middle of the road. Okay, not like you guys drive. Please don't do that. But this is the road of life. Someone who's on the middle of the road, away from the extremes. The key is seeing past superficiality to the true value of life, what it's all about. Right? Unfortunately, we don't get to see that. Hey, we're very close-minded. We're like those horses with those clappers on. We don't see the big picture. Only when you die and your soul now leaves your body, you can finally look down on the world and see what it was all about, where the real treasures are. Right? Yeshua taught us treasures are in heaven, right? Not here. So here's a joke. Abe, a multi-millionaire, is eating in a restaurant when he suddenly starts choking on a chicken bone. He is saved by a surgeon seated at the next table. After regaining his composure, Abe turns to his savior and says, God bless you. I'd like to thank you. How much do I owe you? Oh, I'd be more than happy, replies the doctor, if you gave me a tenth of the sum you were willing to give me 1 second before I saved you. In hindsight, we become very stingy, né? Yeah. But at the moment you're about to die, you'll give everything. Eh? It's amazing how we change our perspectives in a moment like that. Eh? It's very difficult to train yourself to see the world through those eyes. Okay, mission number 2. Ben Azai said, run to do even a minor mitzvah and flee from sin. For one mitzvah leads to another, and one sin leads to another. It's a snowball effect, never ending. Hey? For the reward of a mitzvah is another mitzvah. You get another chance to get closer to Hashem. And the recompense of a sin is another sin. You go further away from Hashem, piece by piece, every time you do that. All right, let's hear what he says here. Okay. There is an underlying lesson in this Mishnah not to rate the mitzvahs and decide which ones are more important than the others. This is why in general the Torah does not link rewards to deeds and considers a mitzvah done as an opportunity to do another one, a reward in and of itself. And adds Rabbi Jonah, if you get into the habit of running passionately and joyfully to do a minor mitzvah, you'll continue the habit when it comes to higher yielding, more difficult mitzvahs. So it's like that parable Yeshua talks about those who were given little and those who were given a lot. If you're trustworthy in a little, you'll be given even more. What's a light mitzvah or a minor mitzvah? According to the Tiferes Israel, it usually entails something that provides immediate gratification, like a Shabbos meal, or it has some logic to it, like honoring your parents, or the convenience of repetition, your daily prayers. Ben Azai uses his words carefully. He says, after running to do a mitzvah, he doesn't use the same verb here for sin. Sin, he says, you must flee from. He also doesn't use the adjective minor to attach it to a sin, on the theory that there's no difference between minor and major evil. Evil is evil. The Torah considers zealousness a virtue. Complacency is a curse. The new rabbi was a bit overzealous and impatient. During a speech in Shul, one Shabbos morning, he was annoyed at old Yankele, who was asleep and snoring in the back row of the Shul. So the rabbi takes his chumash in a fit of fervor and throws it at Yankele. His aim is good, and he hits Yankele right in the head. Hey, what are you doing? Yankele shouts. Yankele, says the rabbi, if you don't want to hear the word of God, I'll make you feel it. The power of God. All right. Okay, Mishnah number 3. He used to say, despise no one and disdain nothing. Do you read that? Despise no one. Quickly think of that list you've got in your mind. All the people you hate.
Hate or despise?
Both.
Yeah.
Like, you can't do this.
I don't see the difference between hate and despise. Sometimes you hate despise. Especially if they came back with a bad report. Despise no one and disdain nothing, for there is no one who does not have his hour, and there is nothing that does not have its place.
Well, I guess you should say if you're angry at your brother in your heart. No, sorry. If you hate him,
Love your enemy.
No,
Yeah.
sorry.
Don't
Hating
hate.
him is as good.
You've heard, hate your enemy. I tell you, love your enemy. Yeah. So yeah, everyone's got their hour. So Paul, for example, look at Paul. Prime example. He was the accuser of the brethren, right? We had full right to hate him, but he became like one of the most important apostles. He had his hour. Okay, so people make mistakes. Everyone's created in the image of God. Let's see. What does this thing say about that? Clever. Now I've lost my. There it is. Mishnah number 3, page 141.
Oh, they're not in order.
No, that took me hours to get this stuff together. That's why I haven't prepared anything. Too busy getting the pages. Okay. This Mishnah extends the concept of respect, which is derech eretz, known as the way of the world, for physical objects. That's interesting. So he translates it as this: do not be disrespectful of any person, and do not be dismissive of anything. A thing as well. But the word for thing there is the word davar, which is the same as words, eh? And so we handle with care such objects as our Sefer Torah, our Sifrei Kodesh, our holy books, the Sifrei Tanakh, a Siddur, a Machzor, your Tefillin. Judaism confers dignity on everything, ranging from mankind to animals to insects and even objects, covering our challah on Friday night, leaving the earth untouched during its sabbatical year. And it demands that we treat everybody and everything with unadulterated, menschlichkeit, decent behavior, in the pursuit of mipnei darchei shalom, the ways of peace. Jewish law fills 2 entire Talmudic tractates with the mitzvahs of derech eretz, and declares that they preceded Mount Sinai by 26 generations, the span of time between creation and the giving of the Torah. The perfect example of the Mishnah's second point, where it says don't dismiss anything, is King David. When fleeing Saul, he carps at a cobweb. Remember that story? Only to be saved by that cobweb whilst hiding from his mortal enemies in the hollow of a tree. Rabbi Jonah translates the word davar, thing, as the word word, thus emphasizing the supreme care one must use with your speech, leading Ben Sirach to define wisdom as being known by the answer of the tongue. It isn't necessary, notes Rabbi Chia, to tell a wise man to hold his tongue, whilst his colleague, Yehoshua ben Levi, measures the worth of each word, saying, a word is worth a small coin, a selah, but silence is worth 2. So, enough said.
Silence is golden.
Silence is golden, so shut up and get rich. A restless dovey sat in a court all day waiting to be called for a minor traffic summons. When his name was finally called out, the judge adjourned the court to the following day. But why? The frustrated dovey snapped at the judge, and the annoyed judge snapped back. That'll be $20 for contempt of court. That's why. As Dovey took out his wallet, the judge said, No, you don't have to pay now. Dovey snapped back. I wasn't going to. I'm just checking to see if I have enough for 2 more words. That's clever. How many swear words can I get out with? I'll follow the 100 and get me. Okay, Mishnah number 4. These guys are clever, eh?
Yeah.
Rabbi Levitas of Yavne said, Levitas, there's a Jewish kid in Joburg. I think he's 14 years old. He just became the 10th South African Grandmaster in chess. Ooh. Yeah, this week I think he became a Grandmaster. He's 14 years old, Jewish boy.
Sure, idolize him now.
I think this is his surname. I think his surname is Levitas. Yeah. Leviticus. Okay. Rabbi Levitas of Yavne said, have extreme humility of spirit. Humility is already hard enough. He says, have extreme humility of spirit. For the end of mortal man is the worm, or the grave. That's a nice sobering thought. Right, Rabbi Levitas of Yavne does not mince his words, laying it out in unpleasant terms. Be extremely lowly of spirit, and by using the word extremely, in the Hebrew here, you'll see it actually uses the word me'od twice. Me'od. You must have super humility. The Mishnah wants to make sure that we get the point. Why? Because the end of man is worms. Thank God for King David, a Jew so humble that he often focused on his own failings. But at least the poet-singer of Israel was able to express the same wormy thoughts in more poetic lyrics. He said, "Man is like a breath, his days are like a passing shadow." The Mishnah's reference to the lowly silent worm is, writes the Rambam, a deterrent to illusions of grandeur in life. In fact, Rabbi Levitas' warning had already been given earlier in the book of Kohelet. It says, "Humble altogether your pride, for man's expectation is worms." It's funny, there's a city in Germany called Worms. And a bunch of our great rabbis come from Worms as well. So every time I read it, I don't know what I'm talking about. Is it the real worms or the city? Or
Here also.
Hey, Rabbi Meir of Worms, yeah. That's the rabbi that wrote, didn't he write the Shavuot, the Akdamut? Yes. Yeah, so yeah, that was a story of and a half. We had some crusades there in Worms as well. Anyway, and yet our sages were mortified at phony displays of self-esteem and counterfeit humbleness. Don't pretend to be humble, they say. You're not that great. And responded to any unacceptable excess of humility not as noble, but as an ignoble and derogatory characteristic. Look at me, I'm so humble. Right? That's why when Moses had to write the verse in the Torah that says Moses was the most humble man in the world, God had to force him to write it. Moses said, not going to happen. God had to hold a gun to his head, so to speak, and say, you have to write this is my decree, write it now. And Moses said, And that's why the Aleph of Vayikra is small. Might be that one, yeah. Okay, so the Baal Shem Tov advised that in the pursuit of humility, which should always be tempered with joy, the person or the Jew should never think so little of himself that he neglects to think of himself at all. If I'm not for me, who's going to be for me, right? Remember that thing. Try it this way. Humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. Wise words. The top student in yeshiva is sitting in the principal, the Rosh Yeshiva's office, seeking shmicha. He wants to get ordained. I know the important qualities necessary to be a community rabbi, the boy says. I should behave humbly, act modestly, learn and teach Torah. Is there anything else I need to know? Yes, replies the elderly Rosh. You will need to develop a high degree of imagination. What? I don't understand, says the boy. Yes, says the dean or the Rosh, because you'll always have to imagine that someone actually cares. That's a cold one. Jeez. That wasn't a joke. Okay, Mishnah number 5. Sometimes when I preach, I wonder if you guys even care.
Today's one was very impactful.
Sometimes you go so fast that we only catch it 2 sentences further down the line.
Yeah.
And then to laugh then.
When I get serious, you start laughing. During the motor's car, she's not around. Okay, we're at number 5. Yeah. Rabbi Yochanan ben Baroka, that vitamin you must take every day. Baroka, be sharp. He said, whoever profanes God's name in secret will be punished in public. Profaning the name is the same whether done inadvertently or deliberately. That's a rough saying. I mean, how many of us don't do stuff by accident? Okay, there's no commentary for this one. Oh, okay, well, let's go to number 6. Rabbi Yishmael, his son, said, one who learns in order to teach will be given the opportunity to learn and teach. One who learns in order to do will be given the opportunity to learn, teach, keep, and do. Once again, it's talking about that, we always talk about our mental, I want to be clever. If you learn in order to teach and that's it, you're not going to get anything further than that. You've got to learn in order to do these things, apply them in your life. That's Mishnah number 6. All right, let's see here. You got the sniffles there?
Yeah.
Oh, shame. Pray for you. There's tissues all over the place except when you look for them. There, Rebecca's got a tissue for your issue. Okay. So the Mishnah, despite the concept of Torah Lishma, places an agenda on your Torah study in that one should not make your learning a superficial abstract art, but at least have an end goal. The Torah's value is thus not an intellectual stimulus, which can just as easily be satisfied by any disciplined scientific study, from geometry to geology, but in its God-recognized guidance for a relevant, meaningful, and sanctified life. What good is it we come here on a weekly basis, or we have extra classes, so we can have more learning, but we don't do any of it. Right? It's much more important that we come to shul and worship God. The learning is just a bonus. We should never come here for learning. It's true. It's a hard thing to realize, but I mean, let's be honest. I think that's one of the reasons why we all got into this movement, because we were like, oh, the Bible means more than we thought it did. Oh, this is Bible thing, this Torah thing, this is Sabbath thing. It's more than that. It's about doing the stuff is much more important.
I think that's where we get very puffed up as well.
Yeah?
We start becoming...
Oh, did you know Christmas is pagan? Oh, I'm better than you. Yeah.
And it's how when more people pitch up for the study than they do for the
worship of God. That's very problematic, eh? All right, learning alone, according to Rabbi Ishmael, was of little value. Learning to teach was the goal. Who learns but doesn't practice Torah, warns the Midrash, is better off never having been born. Yeah, 100%. In presenting the Jew with two choices, study to teach or study to do, Rabbi Ishmael seems to prefer the latter. This is obvious. One cannot teach until and unless one does. Or as the Yiddishists put it, words that come from the heart enter the heart as well. What's the lesson here? One must study in order to improve oneself in doing, and then, and only then, should one seek to teach others. This is not only practical advice, but common sense, for no student will eagerly absorb lessons or values unless the teacher is an honest, sincere, walking, talking, real McCoy, doing role model. The exact opposite of the popular adage of those who can't end up teaching.
Well, it's like anyone that teaches any sport. I mean, you can't teach tennis if you don't play it yourself.
Or at least have played in your life.
Yeah.
I heard a quote this week from a famous guy, I can't remember who said, those who can't do it, teach. Those who can't teach PE. Physical ed, sports coach. Who was that? I heard it this week somewhere. Anyway. The young Kollel guy, the guy at Yeshiva, decides to go door to door teaching Torah. He rings one doorbell and it's quickly obvious that the little old Jewish woman is unhappy to see him at the door. She slams the door in his face, but the door doesn't close properly. It bounces back open. So she tries again, but the door bounces back again. Convinced that the Kollel guy has his foot in the door to stop it from closing, she slams it with all her might to teach him a lesson, but it bounces open once more. Perhaps, says the Kollel guy softly, it would help if you move your cat.
PG.
It's cold. So next time the Jehovah's Witnesses bother you guys, make sure the cat's locked up. Okay, Mishnah 7. Rabbi Tzadok said,
That guy's still traumatized.
nowadays we've got gates and fences so that they don't get to your house anymore. It's not such a big issue today.
You have to make an appointment to get in.
Yeah, 100%. Rav Tzadok said, do not separate yourself from the community. When sitting as a judge, do not act as a lawyer. Do not use the Torah as a crown for self-glorification or as a spade with which to dig. Likewise, Hillel used to say, one who makes worldly use of the crown of the Torah shall fade away. From this you learn that one who seeks personal benefit from the words of the Torah risks destroying his life. That was a big Mishnah, that one.
And that number 6, just to go back, it's like, they say practice what you teach. It said on Facebook to practice what you post.
Okay, status symbol. The Mishnah is a reminder that Torah is a gift to Israel that comes with obligations, and those who use its knowledge for personal, social, or financial gain are abusing God's grant. The expression not to use the Torah as a spade to dig refers to its abuse for utilitarian, especially financial goals. One day Rabbi Tarfon was passing through a garden and ate some leftover figs. The garden custodian saw him and beat him, but stopped when he told them who he was. For the rest of his life he grieved over this incident. Woe is me, for I have used the crown of the Torah for my own benefit. The Rambam worked as a doctor to make a living, and he was appalled at his colleagues who cashed in on their Torah knowledge, accusing them of cheapening the spiritual product by making the Torah look like any other profession. What's so negative about turning the Torah into a crown? In general, this is a positive attribute for scholars. Whoever holds back his student from serving him, it is as if he denies him kindliness. But using it selfishly as an egotistical tool to be admired or respected by others borders on contempt or worse, hollow hero worship. A crown, in the metaphoric language of the rabbis, is not a decoration, but it's a symbol of the very essence of the wearer. The crown of a king identifies him as a genuine king. Therefore, the truly pious person who wears a crown wears it as an embodiment of his total dedication to the Torah. Thus, by honoring him, we honor what he stands for. Two Jews are arguing. Can you believe it? Two Jews are arguing over who had the more pious rabbi. My rabbi, shouts Beryl, is so froom that he fasts every day except on Shabbos and Yom Tov. That's a lie, yells back Shmerel. I saw him having a bagel yesterday. Aha! That shows just how little you know, Shmerel. My rabbi is so humble and modest about his piety that when he does eat, he only does so to hide the fact that he's actually fasting. Sincerely deceived, eh?
My kind of fasting.
Yeah. Daniel fast. Remember that story? Okay, Mishnah 8. Rabbi Yossi said, one who honors the Torah will be honored by mankind. One who disgraces the Torah will be disgraced by mankind. No commentary for that one. Let's go to number 9. Rabbi Ishmael, his son, said, one who avoids serving as a judge spares himself enmity, robbery, and false swearing. One who is overconfident in giving decisions is foolish, wicked, and arrogant. Who would like to be a judge?
Overconfident in giving decisions. Giving decisions.
If you're overconfident, I've got the answer for everyone.
No, but I'm like giving decisions. Isn't it making decisions?
I guess so.
Well, how do you give a decision?
Same thing.
Is it?
No,
Maybe you just give your opinion.
Someone asks your opinion, then you make a decision for them.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. So, this is about... So it's actually good, it's considered a good thing if you're someone who takes a bit of time to reach a conclusion or to think.
Yeah. Our sages actually teach you that if you want to be a judge, you have to hate being a judge. No one should want to be a judge. It shouldn't be a desirable thing. It's a very difficult job. It's a job that's extremely difficult because there's so many temptations. And your decisions are so valuable that no one should enjoy wanting to be a judge. If you have a passion to become a judge, then it's probably because you're corrupt. It's your evil inclination that wants to be a judge. So look at Moses. He didn't want to be a judge. Remember, he told God at first, I work at Stutterfords, so please don't choose me.
Yeah.
That's the judge we have to be like Moses.
That's like because most lawyers, they want to come by because
Yeah. By the way, I don't know if you guys have seen, there's this trailer out online. They want to make like a comedic version of the Exodus. They want to make like a series. It looks like, The Chosen, but it's a comedy. So it's like the background things with Moses and all of them discussing how they're going to go through the Exodus. The trailer is out online already. They're still like raising funds to make a full series of it. It's hilarious. So there Moses sits and tries to make decisions, and that's just funny. I'll send you guys the trailer if you want. Anyway. Okay, so although justice is a central concept of Judaism, this is the Torah insists the courts should be established in every city of Israel, the Mishnah cautions Jews to avoid becoming judges, sensing that it is a thankless, almost impossible task. Who then should judge? Only those who aspire not to judge, but who are willing to do so when there is no other person available or worthy of the job. And even then, they have to be superhuman in their conduct and character, which is why Shimon Bar Yochai thanked God for not making him a judge. The Torah is aware that judges, despite performing a divine mission, are as human as the rest of us, and to rise to the level of seeking truth is a Herculean task for a mere mortal. So the Mishnah's advice is, do not judge alone, but share the burden with other judges, which is why the typical Jewish court consists of, how many judges? 3 at least. The Torah itself made judging your neighbor with righteousness a positive commandment. Philo, the 1st century Alexandrian Torah philosopher, was of the opinion that the judge is himself on trial. The Zohar accuses him of sinning if he doesn't look for merits in the accused. And the Talmud suggests that during a trial, he should visualize a sword being suspended over him and Gehenna gaping underneath him while he's judging. No wonder Ben Sirach concluded that one should seek to not be a judge. That's some scary stuff. Gehenna open underneath you. It was so cool. On Wednesday night we studied, what was that city? Hierapolis, the city of Hierapolis, where they had tradition that was the gateway to hell. There was this cave where this like smoke and sulfur came out, and traditionally that was the gate of Hades. So they even made a statue of Hades up there with his dog, that Cerberus dog with 3-head thing. Yeah. And people would send birds in there and the birds would die. It's proof that this is the gate to hell. But then the priests of Hierapolis would walk in there and walk out and say, look at us, we can do it. But I think it was Philo said, but we saw on their faces they were just holding their breath.
Another one I was thinking when you were doing that about barnyards.
Who?
Barnyards.
Yeah?
In
Barnyards in the north of-
Philippi, Caesarea Philippi,
Yeah?
where
The
barnyards
banyas,
is.
you mean they were pan?
Where the pond, where they say that.
The banyas,
There was also-
the fountain where all the water comes from.
Yeah, but they also must say it's the gate to hell.
Oh, is it?
Where the
Jordan
God
stones.
pond comes from.
Oh.
And it made me think a lot of it. And what was interesting for me is that it's called Caesarea Philippi, and which was, Herod's son was Philip.
Yeah. The one side. Yeah.
It's a beautiful place.
Is it? I don't think I've been there.
Oh, it's also
Barnyards,
got a
yeah.
waterfall.
Barnyards.
Not the other one, but
They say that's the gateway to hell. And the water comes from there.
No.
no, there's like a
Spring or what?
Yeah.
No, it's like
Where the Jordan starts.
Yeah, yeah.
that's it. But then a little bit away from it is this place where it's Pan and
Pan, what do you mean Pan?
Pan, the
The god,
mythical
the
god,
half-man
Pan.
of the
Pan.
Is that a god?
Mythical, yeah, Pan.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that in my life.
Goat.
Huh?
Half-man
Half-man
of
of
the-
the-
Is that his name?
They play pan.
Yeah.
And he plays the
all
flute.
those things comes from.
Is he the one that made all the jokes that my puns?
Yes.
Oh, I'm going to have to stop telling jokes.
Pancake.
I never even knew that. Oh well, there we go. Learn something new every day.
That's Caesarea Philippi, that's not barnyards.
No, that's why I was saying it's a little bit away from Barnyas, but it's very close.
Oh, we must say it next time I go to Israel.
Beautiful.
Is it?
Yeah,
Awesome.
up north.
Okay.
Yeah, it's also where Nimrod's castle is.
Ah.
Same area of Brakpan.
Nimrod's castle. Brakpan. Brilliant. Yeah, it's like we spoke about that on Wednesday night as well. We've got our own snake city. It's called Pofadder. We've got Brakpan as well. Okay. Here's the joke. Isn't it true, the prosecuting attorney bellowed at Michal, a witness, that you accepted $5,000 to compromise this very case? Michal was silent, staring out the window as though he hadn't heard the question. Isn't it true that you accepted $5,000 to compromise this case? The lawyer repeated. Again, Michal didn't respond. Finally, the judge leaned over and said, Sir, please answer the question. Oh, I'm sorry, Michal apologized. I thought he was talking to you, Judge. Oh, corrupt as can be. Number 10. He used to say, do not act as a judge alone, for none may judge alone except the one. Do not say, accept my view, for they are permitted, not you. Everyone can make up their own minds who to accept. Right, there's no commentary for this one. Let's go to number 11. Rabbi Yonatan said, whoever keeps the Torah when poor will eventually keep it in wealth. Whoever neglects the Torah when wealthy will eventually neglect it in poverty. Right, Mishnah 11. Rav Yonasan warns that old habits die hard. If you neglect the Torah because you're too busy accumulating assets and possessions, you will still be too busy once you have the assets and possessions. Quickly got, quickly lost, goes on the Yiddish adage. The Tiferes Yisrael sees poetic justice in this Mishnah, concluding that neglecting the Torah because of poverty is a somewhat legitimate reason. God will somehow provide sufficient means to make ends meet and to allow some Torah time in serenity. However, neglecting it when wealthy, do not say when I have free time I will learn story, lest you will never have free time. Common excuse syndrome is what we call it as well, will bring poverty to your door. And any chance of further Torah learning will be lost to a new and bewildering challenges that come your way. If not now, when, hey? The Mishnah is intended to establish priorities and set limits. It also offers hope to the poor and the impoverished, as long as they don't lose faith in the Torah way of life and word of warning to the rich who in arrogance turn their backs on the Torah. The one who persists in knocking, writes Moshe ibn Ezra, is the one who will succeed in entering. This is true for rich and poor alike. But reality is reality, and poverty can be extremely debilitating. So our sages, motivated by sympathy and understanding of stress, don't demand full-time Torah study. Nevertheless, they do urge, according to the Rambam, a minimal amount each day. So, is it okay to be rich, is the question. Sure. Judaism views wealth as a privilege given by God and an opportunity to do something for the community, and disagrees with the Isaac Leibush Peretz's cynical bon mot: the bigger the businessman, the smaller the Jew. Write down what you would do, asks the English teacher, if you had $1 million. Lenny hands her a blank sheet of paper. Lenny, she screams, you've done absolutely nothing. Why? Because Because if I had $1 million, that's what I would do. Absolutely nothing. Wouldn't that be nice? If I were a rich man, all day long I'd be. That's exactly what it says here. All right. When are you going to sing that for us again, Nati?
One day.
One day. When I wake up from this. Yeah. All right. Okay, Mishnah number 12. Rabbi Meir said, limit your business activities and occupy yourself with Torah. Have humility before everyone. If you neglect the Torah, you will have many excuses to neglect it. But if you labor in the Torah, He has great reward to give you. All right, the Mishnah is a lesson on reverence. Rabbi Yossi reflects modesty through association. By honoring the prestige and the nobility of Torah, one achieves his own greatness through humility. This can be done in a variety of ways, including showing respect to the Jewish books, to scholars, etc. Go near an anointed person, and you will become anointed. The manner in which a Jew talks to or about another person is reflective of his own character. No crown carries such royalty as that of humility, notes Eliezer ben Judah, German Kabbalist. In fact, Jews wear yarmulkes partly for this reason. This goodwill ambassador for Torah philosophy fits in neatly with the Malbim theory. Known for his focus on the Torah linguistics, the Volhynia-born rabbi concluded from the structure of God's twice-repeated fashion details of the Big Day Kahuna, the priestly garments, that not only was the Kohen's head covering intended to atone for your haughtiness by way of instilling the wearer a sense of humility before God, as it says, cover your head in order that you fear heaven and the fear of heaven be upon you, but that the more humility the position required, the larger the kippah is required. And so it was, the Kohen Gadol's head covering, his metznefet, was bigger than those worn by the regular Kohenim, because he was at danger of getting a bigger head than them. That's amazing. I'm going to start wearing a very small kippah. Doesn't it seem strange that the size matters of your kippah? Why should God care? Well, He doesn't. It's not about dimensions. It's an individual's conscious effort to maintain a higher quality of humility, which is why the ma'adim and midos, your character traits, Hebrew for your clothing and your character traits, are etymologically related. Ma'adim, your clothing, and midot, your character traits, have the same root word. So you must clothe yourselves with humility. Paul says this, eh? That's brilliant. I've never seen that before. Well done. The rabbi of the Cheder, the kids' school, assuming that everybody in his class knows the right answer would be humble or humility to his question, points to little Izzy and asks Izzy, what's the most important H word in the eyes of God? Little Izzy doesn't miss the beat and he says, handsome. Handsome, says the rabbi. Yeah. Whenever I see Beryl eating his lunch, that huge pastrami sandwich, I say, come on, hand some over. That was clever. All right, Mishnah number 9. Rabbi Yishmael, his son, said, one who avoids serving as a judge spares himself enmity, robbery, and false swearing. One who is overconfident in giving decisions is foolish, wicked, and arrogant. Let's see what it says about this one. Although justice is a central concept of Judaism, the Torah insists that courts should be established in every city of Israel. Haven't we read this already?
Wait, which one are we at?
No.
Who then should judge? It's the same thing, man. Are we on Mishnah 9 now? Yeah.
No.
No, we're not. Where are we on?
13. Wait. Yeah.
Yeah, we're on 13. My bad. Okay, never mind. All right. Let's read it again. Rabbi Eliezer ben Jacob said, one who performs a single mitzvah acquires for himself an advocate. One who commits a single transgression acquires for himself an accuser. Repentance and good deeds are a shield against punishment. So every time you commit a sin, you're actually creating a demon that's going to accuse you one day at Judgment Day. Every time you do a mitzvah, you're actually creating an angel that will defend you on the day. That's the idea behind this Mishnah. The Mishnah introduces the concept of defending and accusing angels who exist and execute God's will as part of His process of justice. And yet we know very little about these angels. There's prosecutorial or otherwise. In fact, there are so many different categories of angels that it's hard to keep up with them. We have the malachim, which are messengers. We have the irinim, which are the watchers. We have the cherubim, literally the mighty ones. We have the chayos, which is the holy ones, or like these weird animal ones. You've got the ofanim, which are literally the wheels. The sarim, which are princes. And the seraphim, the fiery ones, and so on. Do you know there's so many different types of angels? It's scary.
So,
No, I don't know what's what. Or who's who. All I know is my wife is an angel, but that's it. Don't ask me which one.
but
It depends. It depends on what I did.
You've just lit the fiery one.
Yeah, sometimes just wake up the fiery one, the seraphim. Especially if you call her Serafina.
The angels that approached Abraham.
Hey?
The angels that approached Abraham. He identified them as that. No, he only figured it out later. Didn't he?
No, it was 3 Malachim. It was 3 Malachim that approached Abraham, as far as I know.
Malachim, no?
Just messengers.
But he only later realized they were angels because he thought
Yeah,
they
he
were
put
playing
them
normal
men, yeah.
visitors.
Let's get them food ready. Alright, so the Rambam argues that angels, or the Greek word angelos, are simply metaphors for the laws of nature. The Midrash claims that one angel does not perform 2 missions. So there must be men. They can't multitask. Nor is one mission performed by 2 angels. Are they anonymous? Well, most are. But some of these angels have names. For instance, Mikael, the preeminent angel and the guardian of Israel, who holds the keys to heaven. Raphael, who heals, right? The Refuah means healing in Hebrew, so Raphael is the healing angel. And Gabriel, what is Gevura? Gevura means like might, scariness, right? He prosecutes Job and others before the divine tribunal. How many angels are there? I don't know. But there must be a lot, because according to the Talmud's Jonathan ben Eliezer, from each of God's utterances, an angel is born. Okay, so there's angels upon angels.
Wait, he prosecutes. Gabriel prosecutes.
Yeah,
He prosecuted Job.
apparently, yeah.
So it wasn't.
Yeah, strictness and judgment, that's what Gabriel does. I always imagine Gabriel as like a biker, one of those Hells Angels guys. Tattoos and bald head and leather and spikes.
That's your question.
So it wasn't Hasatan that prosecuted Job. It was Gabriel.
That's interesting actually, yeah, good point. Okay. A guy was taken to Mercy Hospital of the Angels for emergency surgery. After the operation, a nun appeared at his bedside saying, "Hi, I am senior sister of the Mercy of Angels, and I want you to know you're going to be just fine. We need to know, however, how you intend to pay for your stay at the hospital. Are you covered by insurance?" "No," he says. "Can you pay in cash?" "I'm afraid not, sister," he says. "Well, do you have any close relatives?" "Only my sister, but she's a humble spinster nun." "Oh, I must correct you, sir. Nuns are not spinsters. They're married to God." "In that case," he says, "just go ahead and send the bill to my brother-in-law."
Come on.
The clever, hey? None the richer. None the wiser.
Sister act.
Sister what?
Sister act.
This is the act, yeah. All right, number 15, eh? No, 14. Rabbi Yochanan the sandal maker said, "Every gathering that meets for the sake of heaven will have an enduring effect. Any gathering that is not for the sake of heaven will not have an enduring effect." Right, there's no commentary for that one. Number 15. Rabbi Elazar ben Shemua said, "Let your students' honor be as precious to you as your own. Let your colleagues' honor be like the reverence due to your teacher. And let the reverence you have for your teacher be like the reverence due to heaven." Right, so note how this Mishnah restricts its advice to your student, your colleague, and your teacher. Does that mean that you don't have to honor or fear someone else's teacher, or their student, or their colleague? Well, the answer is yes and no. Obviously, one must treat others with respect that they are due. However, there is a higher burden on your relationships and conduct towards your own. After all, your student is your student. The Mishnah's Eliezer ben Hyrcanus taught his followers to cherish your colleague's honor as your own, because Eliezer ben Isaac puts it, "Many pearls can be found in a poor man's tunic." Indeed, the Talmud calls Jews who rise for the Sefer Torah, but not for a great man, these Jews are foolish. Yehoshua ben Levi was much more skeptical. He said, "Respect all and suspect all," a slogan adopted by the Romans. One must honor a student even when he fails to honor you. Commenting on the Talmudic verse that says that when student gets angry, it's the Torah that heats him up, Rashi is sympathetic to the student who in his impatience can get carried away. So why is the honor of your student your own? Rashi merges the student's accomplishments with his teachers and derives how a colleague should honor other colleague teachers from the way that Moses addressed Joshua. He said, "Let us choose for ourselves." And Aaron addressed Moses, his younger sibling, saying, "My master." Okay. So young Yitzi gets lost at the mall. He runs over to a policeman crying, "I've lost my dad, I've lost my dad." Don't worry, son. I'll take care of you like you're my own, the cop says. So tell me, what's your father like? And the kid replies, baseball and beer.
Oh.
What's your father like? He likes baseball and beer. Okay. I'll treat you like my own. Okay. Number 16. Rabbi Judah said, be careful when you study, for an inadvertent error in study is tantamount to an intentional sin. This one scares me. Because I am very prone to making mistakes with my sermons. Sometimes I have to make the sermon on 99 on the end of the week, in the middle of the night, and I can't concentrate, and then I might make a mistake. So I apologize in advance. All right. Making a mistake in the Torah is a monumental mistake. Why? Because when an error creeps in, it stays. Rabbi Jonah thus argues for constant review. Meiri says this applies especially to those who study the Torah with an eye on hora'ah, to clarify the halakha. And the venerable Machzor Vitri warns the teachers that their carelessness will be judged by God, not as an inadvertent, but as a deliberate act. But our rabbis also realized that to blunder was to be human. As the Rambam, it's impossible to be human and not err. At least, pleads the Talmud's Ishmael ben Elisha, err innocently rather than presumptuously. Which is why Judah ben Eli defined the sins of the ignorant as unwitting errors. Rav Yehuda is surprisingly tough on Torah scholars who make mistakes. Whose mistakes? In the Hebrew, the word for mistake is a shegagos. The Jew committing the error is called a shogeg. They're bluntly compared to intentional misdeeds, turning the very concept of innocent and unintentional errors upside down. Why? The Mishnah expects a higher standard from a Torah scholar. If they arrived at an erroneous conclusion, it was assumed that they were guiltless in intent, but guilty of neglect, complacency, or even worse, conceit. Not to mention the deterioration of their own spiritual level. To Hillel, the contradiction in terms was obvious. The ignorant are simply not pious. Errors lead to ignorance, warns Nachman of the Talmud, and ignorance admits negligence. His colleague Yochanan ben Napaha was more colorful. He said, an ignorant Jew can be torn like a fish. So 3 months after his daughter married, the father comes rushing into the rabbi's office demanding an immediate divorce. This is a very serious matter, replies the rabbi, taking down the Gemara dealing with divorce. In preparation for a decision, what exactly is the fault of this young man, he asks. He can't play cards. What? The rabbi screams, slamming his Gemara shut. Is that a fault? Is that a mumish, a blemish? I pray that none of your young men could actually play cards. That's the problem, Rabbi. This one can't play cards, but he does.
Oh.
That's a big problem. Rabbi Shimon said, there are 3 crowns, the crown of the Torah, the crown of priesthood, and the crown of kingship. But the crown of a good name surpasses them all. What's a good name? Nkosanati.
Oh, thank you.
Stay humble. The Mishnah's concept of a crown on the scholar or a priest is obviously allegorical. For only a king actually wears a crown. Thus, the elevation of any particular position to a crown is to differentiate between the amateur and the real thing. In other words, to be a crowned scholar, rather than just being one, is a metaphorical acknowledgement of outstanding erudition universally recognized. But why does Rabbi Shimon talk of 3 crowns, the ones given to the Jews at Mount Sinai, and then go on to name a 4th one? Because the crown of a good name, which is a 4th in the sequence only, but in reality is superior to all the other crowns, is unlike kingship, priesthood, or scholarship. It's achievable by any person willing to strive for it. In fact, the absence of this good name crown on a scholar, or a priest, or a king dilutes his other crowns. The crown of Torah, according to Rashi and the Rambam, is a prerequisite for the crown of a good name, which is more precious than oil, which when attained becomes superior to all the other crowns. So the first 3 of these crowns are either gifts from God or a result of being a link in a chain of a dynasty. Only the 4th one is the most important. The crown of a good name is one that is self-earned. Right? So the crown of the Torah, you might be able to inherit by being a rabbi's son. The crown of priesthood, you'll get by being a son of Aaron. And the crown of kingship, you can get by being a son of David. Only the crown of a good name is one that's applicable, attainable for all of us. Not getting names right can be embarrassing. Don't you think so, Thomas?
Yes, Jackie.
Izzy decides to go to Catholic school and passes the entrance exam administered by the Mother Superior. A few days later, she calls Father O'Connor, the dean of the school, and she says, "Father, you have to do something about that new Jewish kid. He's driving me crazy." "What's the problem?" says Father O'Connor. "He insists on calling me not Mother Superior, but Mother Shapiro." Okay, number 18. Rabbi Nehorai said, "Exile yourself to a place of Torah and do not assume that it will come after you. For your For your fellow students will ensure that it will remain with you. Do not rely on your own understanding." The Mishnah may use the term gole for the same Hebrew root as the word galus, exile, which the Torah uses to describe the forced and brutal exile of the Jewish nation, but it differs substantially in context. If the Jew is not living in an environment of sanctity, Rav Nehorai urges him to relocate and settle in a Torah-friendly religious community. Right, so how many of you are planning on moving down to the sea when you retire?
Not anymore.
It's a strange one, eh? Moving away from a community. Where were we now? Okay, so why use the provocative term exile? It's a reminder that Jews must not only sometimes uproot themselves geographically, but also psychologically, exiling themselves from old habits and beginning life anew, even in their customary surroundings. Thus, the very idea of exile is to feel uncomfortable, not at home, not fully settled, not yet independent. A state of wandering flux that stays incomplete until the Jew cleaves to the dust of the feet of the scholars and thirstily drinks their words, either at home or abroad. The lesson of this Mishnah? To be proactive in the search for Torah surroundings, to spurn passivity and apathy. In fact, this is how the exciting adventure of the Jewish people begins, with a single expression from God to Avram, where he says, "Lech," or go, a proactive term that symbolizes the history of the people whose first step lies in Abraham's migration. A compelling directive to abandon an entire way of life and step forward into the unknown, the unexplored, and the unfamiliar, to a land that I will show you, with no roadmap, no navigational system, no coordinates, no MapQuest, no emails, no BlackBerry, no cell phone, no GPS. We even have a flower, a plant named after us, the Wandering Jew. The rabbinic chaplain, who had a habit of ending all his speeches with a plea that the audience should reflect upon the purpose of life, was invited to give a drasha in a psychiatric prison ward. He concluded each Devar Torah with the same rhetorical question. "After all, what are we here for?" he said. Sorry, man. My throat's gone dry.
Have some H2O.
Marty, can you fetch my fan for me? Something on the throat. Not you are my biggest fan. Get behind me, Satan. Where's Judah? Is that in?
Yeah. It's constructing.
Constructing. Breaking down. It's demolishing, not constructing. Okay. Go back to the joke. Okay. So this guy was invited, the rabbinic chaplain was invited to give a drasha in a psychiatric prison ward. He concluded each of his sermons with the same rhetorical question, "After all, what are we here for?" which left his listeners in a pensive, quiet mood. This time, at the end of the lecture, instead of the usual reflective silence, one guy yelled out to him, saying, "Well, Rabbi, we don't know why you're here, but we're here because we are not all there." Psychiatric ward.
Oh.
Number 19. We're not all there. We're here because we're not all there. That's clever. It's genius. Okay. Rabbi Yana said, "It's not in our power to explain either the peace or the wicked or the suffering of the righteous." Everyone asks that question. Why do the righteous suffer? Don't ask me. How should I know? Okay. That's Mishnah number 19, eh? Let's check the commentary, page 190. Sorry, my voice is struggling. Last night I was singing too many songs at the Shabbos table.
Why do the righteous suffer? Because they're the only ones who can handle it.
The only ones who can handle it.
Yep.
Good point.
Isn't it also said that to be comfortable is
The worst thing in the world. Dangerous, yeah. All right, why do bad things happen to good people? This Mishnah admits theological defeat. Certain things in life are simply incomprehensible to the human mind. Even Moses was unable to fathom why the righteous suffer. And in response to his question, God tried to placate the humble leader of the Jews by assuring him that there is ample reward for the pious in the world to come. The absence of adequate responses is why, in general, our sages were never philosophers. Instead, they devoted themselves to halakha, to the pragmatic what that God requires of the Jew, and not to the philosophical why, as to why it's required. Rav Ami, the student of Rav Yochanan, tried to explain the ultimate mysterium tremendum, why bad things happen to good people, by declaring every death and suffering is caused by sin. But that didn't work. He was rebuked by the heavenly angels themselves. This led to the Yiddishists of Eastern Europe to proclaim as an article of faith, in life, be careful. Ask God questions, and He may insist that you come up here to hear the answers. Ooh, that's a good. I'm going to use that one next time someone asks me a question I don't have the answer to. If you ask such difficult questions, God's going to call you in. The saintly Chofetz Chaim once pleaded, when the going gets tough, look at the jewels or the Torah that you are carrying. In a desperate attempt to point out the glorious past in the light of his community's grisly present. All who trust believe, cautions Emunah Uvitachon, but not all who believe are trusting. A book of Proverbs adds philosophically, saying, there are things which will not be believed until we see them, and others that are unseeable, save by those who believe in them. On the opening day of his new business, Baruch receives a bouquet of flowers, but is confused about the attached card. It says on the card, deepest sympathy, on the opening day of his new business. He calls the florist, who after apologizing profusely for sending the wrong card, starts crying. Oh no, that means I accidentally sent your card to the funeral party. Well, what did your card say? Congratulations on the new location.
oh boy.
Whoa.
Number 20.
You've got dark humor today.
Yeah. Rabbi Matcha ben Charash said, be first in greeting everyone. Be a tail to lions rather than a head to foxes. Lion's tail. Some people want lion's mane. 6, here we go. So, the seating protocol of the Sanhedrin is a reflection of this Mishnah. Remember, there were 71 sages in the Sanhedrin, eh? The greater the sage, the closer he sat to the center. The moment a member died, everybody in the Sanhedrin would move up one seat. Thus, the last empty seat was filled by the highest ranking rabbi of a lower court, who went from being the head of the fox to the more desirable spot of being a tail to the lions. Ben Charash cautions the Jew to focus not on where he stands in the social hierarchy, but on the overall quality of that social group. This is the little fish in the big pond theory. Far better to be a minor, humble, unassuming student amongst those greater in Torah. Why? Because we benefit from role model association, a selfish yet proactive attempt to wake from the torpor of our own stagnation and be infused and inspired towards self-improvement. The Tiferes Israel notes that the Mishnah has 2 recipes for social interaction. The first requires a non-judgmental approach. You shall greet everybody in the street politely and respectfully. But when seeking a group or a chavrusa, a spouse or a friend, it's okay to be discriminatory in your choices and to mix with more worthy and noble people. Isn't this the snob elitist factor? No, it's self-preservation. Loving your neighbor as yourself, Rabbi Akiva's motto, also requires choosing good neighbors. Better a close neighbor, goes the Midrash, than a brother far away. And the modern day maxim says, judge a man by his friends. It's borrowed directly from the Mishlei HaChachamim, who says, if you want to know a man, ask who his friends are. Am I your chummy?
Of course.
Good.
Go a long way.
One year, on April Fool's Day, the rabbi receives an envelope containing a single sheet of paper on which it's written simply, April's Fool. So he turns to his shamash, the secretary, and he says, This is the first time I've received a letter from a man who sends nothing but his signature. April Fools. Okay.
Shamash, secretary.
I don't know. It can be a bunch of stuff. Shamash can be. It can be the financial director of a congregation. It could be the guy that helps you, like my dad. Shamash is very broad. It could be the secretary. Yeah, the servant.
Shamash.
It's a servant candle, so it's like the servant.
No, it's Shamash.
No, you're a shamash. Just don't say shemesh, because that means hot flushes. That's the sun.
Not always.
Or the seraphim. What was that? The fiery angel. That was 20?
20.
Was it 20 or 21?
20.
That was 20.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to 21. Rabbi Jacob said, this world is like an antechamber before the world to come. Prepare yourself in the antechamber so that you may enter the banqueting hall. That's the teaching of Yeshua's as well, hey? All right, 26. The Mishnah attempts to put a man in perspective. Life is simply a waiting room before meeting God. Don't you hate waiting rooms? Take a ticket. God thus, hey?
Especially when they have toerige music.
Yeah. Oh my word, we had to go renew Becca's visa the other day. And my word, those lines. Thank goodness we had someone on the inside. So we walked in there and we got our ticket, which was like 50 numbers later. And luckily we had someone on the inside, so he said, come, we're going now. Straight there, got it done, walked home. That's what Yeshua does for us. He helps us cut the line.
Try going to Sash.
No, you don't go to Sars.
Unless they invite
You first have to make a
Unless they invite you.
you first have to make a booking, and then that booking is probably like 2 months later that you finally get there.
Mm-hmm.
So and if you don't have a booking, you have to first wait for everybody else who had a booking that day, and then once they're finished served, then they're supposed to serve you.
There's a reason why it's called Home Affairs. When I don't know if you guys noticed, when I did every week I make the pictures for the parasha, make like an AI one. When it was Parashat Pirkei, Pirkei means accounts. I made a picture of Moses with an abacus.
Oh, yes.
And in the bottom corner, I put Sars's logo as well. Because he was doing the accounting of the tabernacle.
Well, thank you for clarifying yesterday's status.
Yes, which one? Oh, the movement.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was.
Did you recognize the cartoon at least or not? Half of the shul doesn't even know what movement are. Really?
I mean, I recognize it, but I couldn't. I didn't
You
get
not
to watch
yes,
the show.
tell it
I thought it was more common. Oh, yeah, you guys didn't have TV. You guys played with the bones of your ancestors when you were kids. You didn't have toys. I remember when they told us that at we did a tour when we were kids of the what's that Afrikaans monument? What's that one here? Voortrekker monument. And they told us how the Voortrekker kids used to play with bones of animals. They didn't have toys. I thought, poor children, just horrible.
It's a stick upgrade.
A stick, yeah. We at least make a gun with a stick. Right. Okay. So this world is an antechamber, right? The Mishnah attempts to put a man in perspective. Life is simply a waiting room before meeting God. Thus, it should be spent in preparation, in mitzvahs, good deeds, and repentance. I am exiting this life through one door, said the Baal Shem Tov, and entering through another. But the minute we look for clues as to the nature of this world to come, we come up empty-handed or teased with tantalizing imagery. At least we can ask, who gets to go to the world to come? The pious? Obviously. The charitable? Naturally. The clowns? Do clowns make it to the world to come?
Oh, definitely.
Definitely.
Depends.
In fact, no, not depends, definitely. The clown may be the first in heaven, says the Talmud. If he has helped to alleviate the condition of human life, he's guaranteed a place in the world to come, says the Talmud. And how do you get there? One path leads to paradise, but 1,000 paths lead to hell. The categories of those who will go to hell is listed by the Tosafos, the early French commentators, and includes heretics, apostates, informers, deniers of Torah and the resurrection, deviators from customs, promoters of sins, tyrants, and those who lay hands on the temple, and supporters of the stormers. Sorry, I added that one. Madrid supporters. The place is obviously already crowded. So the rabbi is furious when he passes by a unkosher treif restaurant.
Yeah, we've heard this one.
I'm checking how it ends.
Get out. If it-
No, it's a different one.
okay.
Okay, yeah, it's a different one. So the rabbi is furious when he passes a treif restaurant and sees several congregants inside. He barges in and screams, Yankala, do you want to go to heaven? Yes, I do, he replies in shame. Then leave this restaurant right now. The rabbi then turns to Pinchas. Pinchas, do you want to go to heaven? Of course, Rabbi. Then leave now, he says. The rabbi turns to the next member of the group. Hey, Beryl, he yells, don't you want to go to heaven? No, Rabbi, I don't. What? What's wrong with you, Beryl, he says. When you die, you don't want to go to heaven? Oh, you mean when I die? Yeah, sure. I thought you were getting a group together to go right now. What's the rush, Rabbi? He used to say, better 1 hour, is Mishnah 22, better 1 hour of repentance and good deeds in this world than all of the life in the world to come. So you think about this, say, what's better, this world or the world to come? He says it depends, right? Better is 1 hour of repentance and good deeds in this world than all of life in the world to come. But better is 1 hour of bliss in the world to come than the whole life of this world. Okay, there's no commentary for this one, so we'll skip number 23 as well. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar said, do not try to placate your fellow in his hour of anger. Do not try to comfort him while his dead lies before him. Do not question him about his vow at the time that he is making it, and do not try to see him in his hour of disgrace. These are important things. These are things that, it's not common sense to people. This is very good advice. You don't have commentary on it though, unfortunately. Okay, next one, number 24. Shemuel the younger, or Shemuel HaKatan, used to quote, if your enemy falls, do not rejoice. If he stumbles, let not your heart be glad, lest the Lord see it and be displeased and divert his wrath from him to you.
So HaKatan means younger. I thought it's small.
It means small, but this is you got Shemuel HaGadol, the great Samuel, and then you got Shemuel HaKatan, smaller Samuel. It's just younger. So he's not the great Samuel. So yeah. Okay. The lesser. There we go. Yeah, the lesser. That's a better one. That sounds horrible though, because you might mispronounce it.
Because I think
the loser.
Younger is not in a good translation, is it?
Yeah. Yeah. Younger sounds better than
Because
lesser.
Katan has nothing to do with age.
No. Time is size. Yeah. All right. So this the seating. We've done this one already. 24. Yeah.
No, you're
You just read 24.
wrong one.
No, we've done this one already.
Commentary.
Yeah, be the tail of the...
Oh, I'm at the long one, 46. That's right. It's supposed to be at 64, not 46. Dyslexic much, eh? There we go. Even if one's enemy's downfall is deserved, says the Mishnah, quoting one of King Solomon's proverbs, one must not gloat over his downfall. Why not? What's wrong with gloating? Surely it's human nature. Even the Mishnah admits the death of the wicked is beneficial to them and beneficial to the world. But Rabbi Shmuel feels that the display of an angry God's power unleashed in justice should be met with awe, not joy, and perhaps a prayer that it not be directed at us, as happened to Lot's wife when she turned around to see Sodom destroyed. This ideology can be traced to the sight of the Egyptians drowning in the Red Sea, when God reproached the angels, the creations of my hand are drowning in the sea and you are singing. But though the angels were not allowed to sing, the Jews did sing. Miriam led the nation in the song at the sea. What's the difference here? The angels were rejoicing at the annihilation of the wicked enemy, and the Jews burst out in song for gratitude for their liberation. So why is Shmuel described here as small? Isn't this an insult? No. His smallness was not physical, but a description of a humble personality. Because of his humility, his colleagues honored his request to add to the daily Amidah the supplication asking for the destruction of the heretics. So we've got how many blessings in the Amidah? 19. But what does Shemoneh Esrei mean? It means 18. So we've got one extra one there. It's this one that we added there. Okay, that this Shmuel wrote, Shmuel HaKatan. We ask that God would smash and humble the wanton sinners speedily in our days. But isn't this itself toying with destruction and retribution? No, because Shmuel's focus lay in Kiddush Hashem, the public restoration of God's honor, sanctifying God's name, recognized through his display of justice. A friend, reminds the Yiddishists, costs you nothing. An enemy you have to pay for. So Yankele didn't like Beryl. So one day the two are standing in the bank when a robber bursts into the bank, lines up all the customers, and demands that they give all the money from their wallets. As the thief approaches Yankele, he turns to Beryl and squeezes some of his money into Beryl's hand. "What's this for?" he says. "Oh, that's the $100 that I owe you." Just before the robbery. Genius. Okay, Mishnah 25.
The lady was also shopping and she saw a neighbor and the neighbor took coffee and put it in her trolley and said, "Oh, here's the coffee I owe you." You have to pay for your own coffee.
The coffee that I owe you, you can pay for. That was number 24. Okay, 25. Elisha ben Abuya said, "When you learn as a child, what is it like? It's like ink written on clean paper. When you learn in old age, what's it like? Like ink written on blotted paper." Die mekaar. Okay, let's see what they say here. "You don't know how much you know. You don't know how much you don't know," warned the humorist Mr. Perlman, "until your children grow up and tell you exactly how much you don't know." According to Rabbi Elisha, Torah knowledge is more easily absorbed by those of tender age, and Torah values become second nature for the young, when they are impressionable, a potency of chinuch or education not seen in later years. That is what the Rambam would describe as self-evident. If I do not develop character and acquire ideals when I'm young, when will I do it? And so the rabbis of the Talmud are blunt. At the age of 6, they say, stuff him like an ox with chinuch, with wisdom of the Torah. Why the metaphor of paper and ink here? In those days, paper was a papyrus leaf, a product that could be recycled by erasing the words with stone. However, the new writing on top of the old one, which still remained visible, turned out a little bit unclear. Thus, the Mishnah's analogy that new writing or education in old age leaves a blurred impression. And more, the Mishnah is directed towards the recipient, the child, and not the writer, the teacher. Thus, just as fresh paper, which is symbolic of the innocence of youth, better absorbs ink, children are more receptive and open to ideas than adults are, who are likened to smudged paper. Better absorb the Torah ideas. That which one learns when he is young is not easily forgotten. The older you get, the more you're like paper mache. Yeah. You were an open book back then. 2 elderly Jewish ladies have been friends and neighbors for years, having grown up and continued to live in the same community as well. Once a week for a decade, they would play cards. One day, one turns to the other and apologizes, saying, "You know, we've been friends for a long time, but I just can't remember your name. I've thought, but I can't recall it. I guess it's the old age. Perhaps you can refresh my memory and tell me what your name is." Her friend glares at her for at least 3 minutes and then finally says, "How soon do you need to know?"
It's like the joke of the guy who always calls his wife Engel.
Oh, yeah. Why are you so sweet? What's the secret to this love you have with your wife? You call her all these nicknames. I've forgotten her name 50 years ago. Yeah. Number 26. Rabbi Yosef Bar Yehuda of Kfar Bavli said, "When you learn from the young, what is it like? It's like eating unripe grapes or drinking wine straight from the vat." Popsak. When you learn from the old, what is it like? It's like eating ripe grapes and drinking old wine. The Mishnah states the obvious. It's better to learn Torah from an elderly scholar. Why? What's wrong with the young? Nothing. But Rabbi Yosef, he says unripe grapes are not as fully shaped as their more mature, older and wiser counterparts. Or as Plato puts it, the spiritual eyesight improves as your physical eyesight declines. Wine from the press refers to wine not matured, a warning that learning Torah from the young could be immature, inexact and error-prone. This honor the age dogma is derived straight from the Torah. It says, "Before the elderly or anyone over 70, you shall rise." A directive with no restrictions, because God expects all the elderly, whether educated or not, to be respected. Why? 2 reasons. Firstly, the elderly are a bridge of tradition between the generations, and secondly, respect for the aged is considered educational. Even an ordinary elderly person, writes the Torah Tamima, has acquired wisdom simply by enduring the many trials of life. And so, Rabbi Meir cautions, do not look at the flask, but what is inside it. The precursor for today's saying that says, don't judge a book by its cover. Now, after concluding his drasha, the rabbi begins the social announcements, saying, tomorrow night we'll be having our annual dinner and the admission fee is going to be $6. However, if you're over 65 years old, the price will only be $5.50. From behind the woman's curtain in the shul comes a cranky old voice. Do you really think I'd give you that information for only 50 cents? Capitalists. Down with the patriarchy. Rabbi Meir said, number 27, do not look at the container but what it contains. For a new flask may contain old wine, and an old flask may not contain anything, even new wine. We have a parable about this in the Gospels, right? About the new wine and the old wineskins. Okay, let's read 73. Rabbi Meir urges us to go beyond surface impressions, to look at the individual, not the birth certificate, especially when admiring a woman. The Torah wants men to appreciate not just the creation, but also the creator, not just the product, but also the manufacturer. Rough exteriors often hide good people, and conversely, evil sometimes parades in the finest wardrobe. The devil wears Prada, ne? Rough exteriors often hide good people. I've read that one already. This is why Jews say a special Shechianu prayer of admiration called the Birkas Nehenin, a blessing of enjoyment whenever we encounter rainbows, flowers, wisdom, or anything reflective of the beauty of God's presence. To which the Yiddish folklore adds, better to talk to a woman and think of God than to talk to God and think of woman. The Talmud supports the popular aphorism that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but cautions that on the Richter scale of qualities in choosing a wife, beauty should not be the number one criterion. So if your mom arranges marriage for you, don't ask for photos of the girl first.
You lucked out.
Yeah. King Solomon, in his poetic Ode to the Woman of Valor, the Eshes Chayil, sung by a husband to his wife on Sabbath Eve, asks, who can find a woman of valor? And adds that charm is false and beauty is vanity. An old Sinatra song goes, love and marriage, go together like a horse and carriage. However, the Torah is not naive. Love, despite the slogan, does not conquer all, warn our rabbis, knowing full well that love fades and cannot alone sustain a marriage. Thus, the first and foremost purpose of marriage is companionship, which is why the Torah's ideal marital component is yichud, an unshakable team loyalty of togetherness, that unity that comes from marriage. David decides to sell some of his stuff and puts an ad in the local paper. Complete set of Encyclopedia Britannica, 45 volumes, college edition, Webster's Dictionary, Thesaurus, all in excellent condition, no longer needed. Recently married, wife knows everything.
Oh. Hey.
Sorry, what was that thing of speaking to God, your wife like you're speaking to God, or what? What's that?
We speak to a
phrase?
woman.
When you speak to God, don't think about women. When you speak to women, think about God.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That way you won't blur the connection between your eyes and your brain. It's a problem. 28. Rabbi Elazar Kapar said, envy, lust, and the seeking of honor drive a person out of this world. Envy, lust, and seeking of honor. They're actually quite similar, those things, eh?
Yeah.
That was Mishnah number 28, eh?
Yes.
53. This Mishnah lists three forms of selfishness so dangerous and pernicious that they are self-destructive. They drive a man out of this world. Is this a physical death? No. But it's a warning that these emotionally debilitating activities are so antisocial that they remove the Jew from his community, they separate him from the collective and strain the harmony of his fellow men. In the realm of love between man and his fellow human relationships, Rashi breaks these three cancerous traits into envy, jealousy among friends, lust for money or immorality, and honor of seeking positions of authority. In contrast, our Jewish mystics see the effects of these three traits in the realm of between man and God, not man and man, one's relationship with the Almighty, and link them to the disgrace and exile from Eden. Envy, which the angels displayed for Adam. Lust, Adam and Eve for the forbidden fruit, and desire, the honor given to Adam, the first man. Any one or combination of these three, argues the Rambam, weakens one's faith, your trust, a system, and it prevents him from developing seichel, understanding or intellect. God wants the heart, the Ben Ish Chai says. The Ben Ish Chai felt pity for those who suffered from all three potent maladies, because they made life unbearable and a constant source of personal strife, stress, and strain. Meanwhile, the Rosh Yeshiva of Volozhin said that the three purposefully appear in chronological order. Envy shows up in an infant, lust in teenagers, and honor only later in life in your adulthood. Is there an acceptable form of envy? Yes, the jealousy among scholars. Why? Because it increases your wisdom. And more, after God asks that we should be jealous for my sake. The Midrash adds, if it wasn't for envy, the world would not stand. A man would not plant a vineyard, or marry a woman, or build a house. So you need to know how to use it. The Vilna Gaon compared lust to drinking salty water. The more you drink, the thirstier you get. And the Talmud warns us, starve it, and it is satisfied. Satisfy it, and it is starved. That's the key to overcoming lust. Izzy is on another one of his weight reduction diets, and he goes to see his doctor with a cucumber up his nose, a bagel shoved in his right ear, and a wine glass sticking out of his left ear. Doctor, says Izzy, I'm not feeling very well. I'm not surprised, replies the doctor. You're not eating right. All right, the final one, number 29. He used to say, those who are born will one day die. Those who die will live again, and the living will be judged. It is for us to know, make known, and confirm that He is God. He is the maker. He is the creator. He is the discerner. He is the judge. He is the witness. He is the plaintiff. And He will deliver the judgment. Blessed is he before whom there is no unrighteousness, no forgetfulness, no favoritism, and no taking of bribes. And know that all is according to the strict reckoning. Do not let your evil impulse persuade you that the grave is for you a place of refuge. For without your consent you were formed. Without your consent you were born. Without your consent you live. And without your consent you will die. And without your consent you will in the future have to give an account and reckoning before the Supreme King of Kings, the Holy One. Blessed be He. That's a big summary of that one, eh? Yeah. Don't think you're in control of your life. Belongs to God. You're just renting. This daunting Mishnah had one simple message. Man is helpless in the face of fate and God's power. Each one of us is propelled to his or her destiny of birth, life, death, resurrection. A cycle that operates beyond our control and often against our will. Life is like a taxi, observes Lou Erickson. The meter just keeps a ticking, whether you are getting somewhere or just standing still. According to Abraham Lincoln, it's not the years in your life that count, it's the life in your years. And so Jewish tombstones are inscribed with only the facts of one's life over which one has no control. Your name, your date of birth, and your date of death. To help mitigate this fate, Rabbi Jonah urges a lifestyle over which we do have some say, in the pursuit of good deeds, the mitzvahs. Anyone who judges others favorably, notes the Talmud, will be judged favorably in heaven. Yeshua said the exact same thing, eh? An echo of the general rabbinic principle that the heavens reward and punish measure for measure, midah keneged midah, meaning be patient and understanding with others, and God will be patient and understanding with you. The psychology behind the Mishnaic directive is obvious. By recognizing the innate goodness in others, perhaps we'll see it in ourselves as well. In other words, always accentuate the positive, because it's pleasant to go through the day with an optimistic outlook that sees everything in a favorable light. This makes for a happier disposition, and as God is sure to notice, puts a smile on your face. And what could be better than that? After examining her husband, the doctor tells Susie, no need to worry, I've checked everything possible and he's fine. He just thinks he's sick. So a week later, the doctor follows up with a phone call. No, how's he doing today? She replies, much worse, doctor. Now he thinks he's dead. Rabbi Hanania ben Acacia said, the Holy One, blessed is He, who wanted to confirm merit on Israel. That is why He gave them a copious Torah of many commandments. As it said, it pleased the Lord for the sake of Israel's righteousness to make the Torah great and glorious.
Amen.